Hello, Miss B's class. Two ties here. And as you can see, I'm not in the classroom. I'm not even super organized. We're having a relaxed discussion on World War I because you have a big butt test number 2 coming up. Now, as you can see, I'm at my home, so you're going to see the occasional animal walk by, maybe a child, maybe anything else. I'm in my socks, just kind of hanging on the couch with my notes all about World War I, my notes. You might want to listen up today because you're going to learn something. We want you to pass this test. We want you to succeed. That's why I'm here with my animals, with my laundry going on in the background, sitting here on my couch. You may see the dog. She's actually upstairs sleeping. The cat's going through her cycle of life right now, so she might be a little loud. But the whole reason I'm doing this is for your education. So we're going to start out with each one of the lessons, 8.1 all the way to 8.5. By the time you get to see this video, you should have this packet. Hopefully you kept your 8.1, 8.2 and added to it. If not, you'll have to get another copy. So we're going to go through this. We're going to run it straight down the line. We're going to discuss the answers, starting with number 1, which is these people had the world's largest and strongest navy during World War I. Of course, this was Great Britain at the time. Number 2, this was a defense agreement amongst nations. This was the alliance system. The celebration of military ideals is militarism. And understanding among nations is Entente. Remember, we discussed the Triple Entente. When we get to the study guide, we'll discuss that a little bit more. This prevents a single nation from dominating the others. This is the balance of power. Down here, for multiple choice in 8.1, whose assassination sparked World War I? Of course, you should know this by now. You drew an extra fingered hand to have this answer and to describe how these events happened. But this was Franz Ferdinand. He was the Archduke of Austria-Hungary, and he was supposed to be the future leader. Which 3 countries made up the Triple Alliance? Once again, you did the packet. You did the hand, you should know this. The answer, Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Italy. Which 3 countries made up the Triple Entente? Once again, you did the hand. It's in the study guide. But, in case you forgot, Great Britain, Russia, and France were the Triple Entente. Which battle made it clear that neither side could win World War I quickly or easily? This was the Battle of Marne. Which new weapon or strategy did the Germans use against the Allied troops in the beginning of April 1915? This was poison gas. Moving on. 8.2. True or false? The Russian monarchy was an example of an autocratic government. This, of course, was true. During World War I, most Americans favored the Germans over the British. This is false. The United States remained neutral throughout World War I. This, of course, was also false because they ended up getting in the war. Without the approval of Congress, President Woodrow Wilson declared war against Germany on April 2nd, 1917. This was false. Henry Johnson was the first American soldier awarded the Francis Cross of War. This was true. Now to the multiple choice. Which of these methods of dispensing information was used by both the Allies and the Central Powers to gain public support? The answer, of course, was propaganda. We did a whole lesson on propaganda. Which of these was a German promise to warn neutral ships of impending attacks? The answer is the Sussex Pledge. Do not get this confused with the next one, which is which intercepted document caused Americans to react angrily against the Germans in 1917. This was the Zimmermann telegram. A lot of people get those two mixed up. As long as you remember that the Sussex Pledge had to do with the sinking of the Lusitania, which is a lot of people would have put that answer thinking about it. But it was also, the pledge was signed on the boat. Now, which of these did President Wilson claim was endangered by the Central Powers of World War II? Now, this country is based on democracy, so of course, anytime we mention anything that endangers anything, it generally endangers democracy, and that's the answer. Who was the U.S. congressman who voted against American entry into World War I? This should be pretty easy. It was Jeannette Rankin, the only woman out of the 4 choices, which makes it really easy for you. 8.3, this is new territory. We're touching upon this week. But first, the definition of a doughboy was the American soldier because of the buttons that they wore. What ended World War I? This was an armistice. Who was John J. Pershing? He was the Supreme Commander of the American Expeditionary Force. Now, these people surrendered to the Allied powers in 1918. This was the Ottoman Empire, which was roughly the Austria-Hungary was the Ottoman Empire. And then finally, ended fighting between Germany and Russia. The Treaty of Brest-Litovsk. Okay. The first one in the multiple choice, who was the leader of the Bolsheviks? This, of course, was Vladimir Lenin. The Bolsheviks were the ones who took over Russia after Nicholas II had to step down. Which of these battles marked the biggest American attack in history? The Battle of Argonne Forest. Who voluntarily left office while Germany considered Wilson's armistice demands? The Kaiser. And remember, we'll go over it in the study guide, but remember that was Big Willie. Wilhelm II was the Kaiser. Which of these was a site of an AEF's first significant combat? The answer, Chateau Thierry. The terms of the German armistice required Germany to withdraw all forces west of the Rhine River. And that is 8.3. 8.4. The National War Labor Board pressured businesses to adopt an 8-hour work day. This is where it first came to light, the 8-hour work day. Before then, you would have everyone working at all sorts of crazy long and any time of the day hours. Herbert Hoover's Food Administration encouraged American farmers to produce more and the public to eat less. Because remember, in time of war, but based around the propaganda lecture I gave, we looked at posters saying, eat more cottage cheese and less meat because we need to conserve food to help support our troops. The Committee on Public Information promoted World War I as a battle for democracy and freedom. Heatless Mondays and daylight savings time were 2 methods the government used to save fuel during World War I. And finally, in 1918, the Sedition Act made it a crime to criticize the United States government, which basically meant there's a lot of people, generally the pacifists, the ones who didn't believe in war, they weren't allowed to, during time of war, come out and criticize or say necessarily that war was bad. Although it's still protected under the Constitution that they could do this. The Sedition Act, kind of during that time of war when we entered, it kind of made it a crime, so they really had to watch what they said. Now for the multiple choice. Which term means the gathering of resources in preparation for war? This is, of course, mobilization. To be mobile, to move. Who headed the Committee on Public Information? This was George Creel. What name is given to the northward relocation of African Americans from the years 1914 to 1920. This was the Great Migration. Which word describes people opposed to the use of violence? I went over this before, so you should know it's pacifist. Which of these laws was used by the U.S. government to silence opposition to war? The Sabotage Act. Now finally we're moving into 8.5. We start out with a true-false segment. The idea of national self-determination was first advanced in secret international treaty. No, it was not secret, so it's false. The British Prime Minister David Lloyd George was among those who thought Germany should pay reparations for the damage they did during World War I. As you saw in photos and in pictures with a lot of bombs going out, there was a lot of damage, and this is true. Germany and Russia organized the Paris Peace Conference. This is, of course, false. It was made up of many different countries that were involved in the war. Civil war raged in Russia after World War I. This is true. Henry Cabot Lodge did not want the United States to join the League of Nations. This also was true. Now we have the multiple choice and the final section in 8.5. What was the subject of the last of Woodrow Wilson's 14 points? The subject, of course, was the League of Nations. Where was the 1919 International Peace Conference held? We went over this before up in the true-false. It was held in Paris. Which country did the Treaty of Versailles force to accept full responsibility for World War I? This was Germany. Because in all, it was kind of, remember, it was Germany's pushing to get the initial strikes on Serbia. What ended President Wilson's speaking tour in support of the League of Nations was he suffered a stroke. He was not in good health at the time. And finally, which country rejected the Treaty of Versailles in 1920? That was us, the United States. Alright, we're going to go on. I'm going to quickly go through the study guide, and then we're going to wrap this all up. And I'll sign off and get this posted up on the YouTube site. So, you need to remember the key players, the Triple Alliance, Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Italy, the Triple Entente, Great Britain, Russia, France, as well as the United States and other allied nations who became involved in the war throughout the entire process. Key vocabulary we need to know. I've added a few since you've got the original packet. Hopefully I'll be able to print this packet and you'll have it in class. First one, nationalism. This is a strong sense of devotion to one's country. This is not naturalization, which means the process of becoming a U.S. citizen. I know this one trips you up a lot because they sound very familiar, but no, nationalization is a strong sense of devotion to one's country. Imperialism, the policy of extending a nation's rule over other territories and countries. Militarism, it's a celebration of military ideals and a rapid buildup of military power. The League of Nations, first international organization whose principal mission was to maintain world peace. Flip on over to page number 2. New weapons. Weapons that were first introduced in World War I that helped change the way that war was fought. Weapons such as the poison gas was really introduced and first used during this. You had your specializations of tanks, special airplanes. Then we move on to Treaty of Versailles. This is a document that was signed to end World War I. Trench warfare. We did a whole day, well, some of us did a whole day of trench warfare. Now this was a form of land warfare using occupied fighting lines consisting largely of trenches in which troops were significantly protected from the enemy's small fire and are substantially sheltered from artillery. As you saw in the video that we watched in class, you saw trenches were not straight, because if they were straight, then somebody could get in that trench and just mow down a whole bunch of people just as if they were standing in a straight line. So they had to be curved to give extra protection. But you also saw that it did protect against some artillery, But if a shell was fired off just right, it would fall right in the hole and probably kill upwards of 20 to 30 people in one shelling. Next one, propaganda. We watched and saw plenty of different things on propaganda, but it is the ideas or information intentionally spread the harm or cause or help a cause. Information used to influence opinion. Remember, donuts versus cookies. Autocracy. This is a government in which one person with unlimited power also is the head ruler of that. This case was Tsar Nicholas II. Russia is an example of this. Up until the Bolsheviks took over. And even then, they kind of still had one person in charge. The Triple Entente. This is an alliance that was formed to combat or go against the Great Alliance. It was made up of Great Britain, Russia, and France. Balance of power. Prevents a single nation from dominating any other nation. Doughboy. This is a name, once again, for the American soldiers. Ottoman Empire. Another name for Austria-Hungary and their allied countries. The Sussex Pledge. A pledge by Germany that warned neutral ships before they would attack. Zimmermann Telegram. A telegram sent from Germany to Mexico to form a secret alliance against the U.S. This angered America. Now we're going to talk about a few key events. The number one, of course, was that Serbia was a growing country that threatened the other big dog countries such as Austria-Hungary. Now, Serbia knew that if the Archduke Franz Ferdinand became the new leader of Austria-Hungary, he would not allow Serbia to continue to grow. In fact, he probably would have went in and tried to take over Serbia anyways. So they decided to get together and act first. In Sarajevo, there was a plot to assassinate the Archduke. Now remember, this is done by a group called the Black Hand. They cannot find his car, so they were all students. They were younger people. You know, I told you they were between the ages of 17 and 22. But because the Archduke's driver missed his turn and drove past a Black Hand member eating a cheese sandwich, he then saw the car, threw his cheese sandwich up in the air, grabbed his gun, and shot both the Archduke, and his wife dead. This, of course, happened on June 28th. And then immediately on that same day, Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia. On July the 30th, Russia made a move against Austria-Hungary to protect Serbia. August 1st, Germany declares war on Russia. August 3rd, Germany declares war on France. August 4th, Germany invades Belgium. August 4th again, Great Britain declares war on Germany. We're almost done, don't worry. August 6th, Austria-Hungary declares war on Russia. August 12th, France and Britain declare war on Austria-Hungary. And the war is officially on. Now, the United States did not enter the war until a German U-boat sank a passenger liner called the Lusitania. This angered the U.S. citizens, but the final straw was when they intercepted the Zimmermann telegraph that stated that Germany tried to make a secret pact with Mexico to strike at America if we went into war and continued to help those who were in the war. So because of this, on April 2nd, 1917, Congress declares war on Germany and America goes in. A few key people you need to know are Kaiser Wilhelm II, Big Willie, Emperor of Germany, Tsar Nicholas II, who was the ruler of Russia, Woodrow Wilson, who was the President of the United States, and George V, who was King of the United Kingdom and the other Commonwealth realms. Couple key battles, this is the final stuff here. Battle of Marne, which was a long battle that showed that the war could not be won quickly. And then the Battle of Argonne Forest, which is the biggest American attack in history at this time. So hopefully you will watch this video over and over and over. And for those who are audio-visual learners, this will help you guys to get it stuck in your brain. And hope the Big Butt Test 2, as in 2 ties, goes well. So this has been 2 ties. Signing out. Peace.